Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this topic that I want to treat today is kind of controversial. You get, it's kind of controversial, and already we've discussed about it in my WhatsApp group chat. People were just making comments about it, so I just had to like give my 2 cents. Then this morning I was just going through some posts on TikTok and I came across a particular post. So I came across this video talking about basically talked about African gods and goddesses, and this whole generalizations about African gods or Igbo gods and goddesses, there is kind of a mix up there. Now, first of all, the word god and goddesses, they don't make sense. They don't make sense if you understand how our interactions with these deities, alose, that's what they are. Now, if you understand how we rapport with them, how we interact with them, what they mean to us, you would have to understand that saying gods and goddesses doesn't make sense at all. So, because we are looking at it from the aspect of a supreme being that is being venerated, like when we talk about God, and we talk about God, the Christian God, in that context, it is just one God. His word is amen and amen. It's just there, whatever he says goes. And everybody, his creations are all expected to serve, to worship him. Like, it's basically under some sort of a compulsion. And when you don't do that, the effect of it is that he's going to burn you in hell. So when I look at the Igbo interaction, the Igbo words that we are trying to substitute for gods and goddesses, it's not there. It's not there. So if we look at how our ancestors interacted with a supreme being, and Soka people call this supreme being Chitoke. Now you can call this supreme being Okike, or Chukwu Okike Abiama, or the source. Now, some people will tell you that the whole Chukwu Okike Abiama kind of term was what the white man, it's just like a deity that exists in Arochukwu, that the white man had to basically, bring to us and tell us, okay, now that the Alose of Arochukwu is the supreme being. Well, you can say it. I'm not here to dispute whatever they said, but what I'm trying to tell you here is that our ancestors believed in the existence of a supernatural being. The big oga on top the smaller ones. Because there has to be somebody that created this fine earth that we live in. So, for the sake of people understanding where I'm coming from, let me say that the English substitution is God. For Chukwu is God. So you can say, okay, who is the supreme deity of Igbo? I'll say, oh, Igbo have Chukwu. Okay, so Chukwu now is the supreme God. Yes, we can go with that. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to use it there. I don't want to start telling people don't use the word God, because the whole, if you read the Bible and understand the biblical interaction, or the depiction of the character of God, it's not something I agree with. So let me just put it there, put it out there, then continue with this explanation. But then, if we look at us now as Igbo, in my community, we do not have a generalized deity, alose, that we venerate. Now, these deities, even the one in my father's house, I'm not even under compulsion to meet that deity, except I go to Afa. Afa says, oh yeah, what and so and so, and come and greet her or greet him, depending on which one. But on my own, I can just exist. So but there's this time a man raised this argument, and he said that every community have their own alose. So are you trying to tell me that all of us will now go and start venerating these communal deities? So the answer here is that Ndi Igbo kind of have a direct access to two primordial beings. This is Chukwu, who created your chi, and your chi, the aspect of divinity that lives within you. So the only supernatural being that I owe any allegiance, I owe any veneration to, is Okike and my chi, the two of them. So if I don't owe this kind of I don't owe this kind of allegiance to all the other spirits, all the other deities that exist, especially in my community, would I now call them God? Since I'm not under compulsion to venerate them. So when we say gods and goddesses of the land, we are making a deep mistake. So because the video I watched before I started making this video was, the person was trying to say something 5 African goddesses that you should know. So maybe in other African countries they're correct, but when you talk about Ani has a function that it performs for us. But Ani is not the only deity that we interact with. So instead of us using this word, gods and goddesses, we need to start readjusting them. Anna or Ane, Barbara, she's a primordial deity. We don't know how she came, and we don't even know how she was instituted. So we look at it as Agbara, as a primordial, something that we cannot even fathom, a direct aspect of Okike, even before an Alose, that you don't have to interact with the chi before you now interact with the deity itself. So instead of us using these words, God and goddesses, we should first of all understand that we have words like Agbara, Alose, Mwobenna, or Mwobenne. Let me explain now. So if we're trying to subject it to just female deities or female primordials or female Alose on a general level, something that if you leave Anambra, if you come to Anambra, you will find it. If you go to Imo State, you will find it. If you go to any Igbo nation or state, this particular primordials or these particular deities exist there. Is when you talk about Ani, Ajani, it's universal, it's there on a benine. So you talk about Ajani, which is Ani as the primordial essence. We'll now talk about Akwali Momo, the deity of fertility. Now, this when we talk about deity of fertility is not just like fertility like giving birth. Fertility in the sense of looking for growth, progress, whether in a family or at a communal level. Another one is Ogugu. Ogugu. Now, in my community, we have different types of Ogugu. We have Ogugu Ochoba, the one that is familiar to me, Mwobennam, Ogugu Ochoba. We now have Ogugu Solide, Selinenu, which is the wife of Uzukbe, another female deity that is attached to my community. In other communities, they would have their own Ogun with a name attached to them. So if you're interacting with Ogugu, you're not interacting with her as a goddess. You're interacting with her as Mwobennem or Mwobennam. Because Ogugu is under the authority of Okike, which I can say, okay, is a god. Because Ogugu does not function on her own. She functions under the authority of Okike. Because every deity have their chi. So if you are trying to tell me, but Okike did not create deities, but Okike created their chi. So because if you go to any Opunmuo and you want to talk to these deities, the Akajiofo would not go straight to say, call on the deity that we are in his or her presence. The Akajiofo would first of all call on Okike, call on Chukwu, and now call on the deity, and now call on the Oramwo of the deity. Would call every Oramwo, every spirit, every essence that is in that particular obi, and call everybody just having their own function and bringing them to even call on the awo, the ndi ichie of that ogugu. So you see that this deity, Alose, it has aspects. But when we talk about Chuku, we don't go and we don't go and start calling on the chi of Chuku. We don't go and start calling on the ndi chi of Chuku, on the miri of Chuku. We look at it as a supernatural being that exists as is on its own and doesn't need any or more to function. So as he's there, Oga Pata Pata is just there on his wherever, I'm just creating an imagery. He's just there on his Pata Pata seat, and he's there. And when he's now there, he's now like creating these other aspects, and now expects us as human beings to, as Igbo rather, to interact with it through the lens of those primordials that he created. So you see, this thing about gods and goddesses is now, I hope you're now seeing why I'm saying it doesn't make sense. Now, in my community, which is in Newi, we have 5 primary deities. Edo Newi, Ezemewi Newi, Ele Newi, which one again? Eze. I think I've forgotten the last one, maybe when I remember later. But we have 5. Amongst these 5, I'm only interacting with Ezemewi. And the reason why I'm interacting with Ezemewi is because the son and the wife are the deity of my own community, Otolo Newi. And within that Otolo Newi, I'm from Obiono. And from that Obiono, the Ogugu that is in charge of my community, no Obiono, is Ogugu Ochoba. So if I say gods of the land, which one in particular are we talking about? Which one knows me and knows my ancestors' ancestors directly? Which ones did my ancestors interact with? Which one would I, if I'm giving a mysterious sight to see the future, and I'll now go and pick up an Nzu from the urban zoo of that deity, and they will say your ancestors was the one that kept this or offered this particular Nzu to that deity. Is this two that I'm talking about? So when I'm interacting with them as Mwobenam. As Mwobenam. Okay, I created this analogy here. So I thought that, okay, coming from the aspect of primordials, where the deities that you will find here and find in basically all parts of Igbo land. I talk about Ane, Aqualium, Momo, Ogugu. I'm focusing on the female deities. I'm talking about the male ones. We will not talk about Udo. Udo is literally everywhere. Arabinago is everywhere. And, I'm talking about Amadioha, Anyamunezi, which other one? Onwa. All these ones. They are literally everywhere. But in my community, Gogo, if you're talking about the female deities, the female Alose that exist in my deity, we'll not talk about Edo, Mboba or Jog. Now talk about the Udowere in Nimo. Now talk about the Haba Agolo in Agolo. So all these deities are like wild spread. They are not consecrated in one spot. And as an Igbo person, I do not have any business going to Haba Agolo for anything. Udowere, I can go there because of Mwekunem from Nimo. I can go there, or Akete. I can go there from Nimo. But this particular one in Agolo, I cannot go there. I can go there to say something, but I don't have any business there. Now, instead of going there, I have to first of all come back to my community and interact with the ones that are familiar to me. Now, in Nnewi now, I've talked about, having at a communal level, which is a Muobudu. Now talk about Ezemewi and the rest of it. Now, if I'm now talking about community by community that is within Nnewi, let's say Otolo, I'll now talk about Uzube. Now, if you now go to Ozobolo, we will now see Ogugunza of Ozobolo. Now, Ogugunza in Ozobolo is the daughter of Ezemewi. Mother is Ogugu Ezekwabo. mother also to Uzukbe. I can communicate to them because of their familiar lines. Now, stories have it here that if somebody go to Obubunza in Ozobolo to kind of, I say, somebody went there and summoned you to the deity. And instead of you going to Ozobolo, you come down to Newi and meet the mother, Ogugweze Kwabo. If your hand is pure, the mother will tell the daughter to let you go. So you see, there is this trick here. Sometimes they will tell you, okay, no wahala, just come to the Navy, come and talk to the momsi. Momsi will know how to talk to the daughter, and she will leave you alone. So you see that interaction. So it's not generalized. The problem here is that we keep on, trying to find European semantics to explain what we are practicing. But when we look at it critically, we'll find out that it does not make sense. And Nollywood, I blame Nollywood because it's them that are saying gods of the land. Gods of the land. Which gods of the land? You don't have every interaction with all the gods of the land. And the mistake that we make here when we say gods and goddesses of the land is that there are some families that cannot go to some of these deities, even when these deities are in their community. For instance, now in my Ajani here, in Navy, women don't enter inside the obi of the Ajani. There's a space there where women sit down, the men go inside, and when they're performing their spiritual work. But there are some community, I think people from Odida, Newich, people from either Urag or Umudi, they cannot enter that obi, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman. So I was there. The last time I was there, a man was from one of these communities that does not enter this Ajani. And he said he was aware, but he forgot. People basically lose track of things sometimes. So he just came with the wife. The wife sat down. He just entered inside there. When he now entered, so I either the SMO knows the man and knows that he's from that place and they don't enter here, or he regained his came to his senses and he said, hey, I'm not supposed to be here. They now brought an ogilishi, closed his eye and walked him out of the obi and discarded the ogilishi leaf and just said ihe mada amalo amare, and that was it. Finished. So when we now look at all those things, and there are some, when I keep talking to you, say that there are some people that, okay, like when I went to Akete one certain time, the man said that, which family am I from? I called my family's name. So I was like, why are you asking? He said that there are some families that are not supposed to come to this deity. They are not Osu. First of all, will be thinking, okay, maybe Osu family, not Osu. So if you talk about gods of the land, it's tricky. Because we don't have these gods of them, we don't have this general interaction with deities, but rather our interaction is focused on Omobenam. So while we are trying to talk about Ordinary, we need to start letting go of these European semantics. Like gods of the land should be substituted to Omobenam or Omobenem or Omobodo. If you now want to address them individually, you will now call them Alose. Alose is Alose. Alose is not a god. Just say Alose, finish, case closed, Shekina. Alose is Alose. Ekwensu is Ekwensu. Ekwensu is not a god. Agbara is Agbara. Amadioha is Amadioha, not god of lightning and justice and whatever. Rather say, if you want to now put it in English words, say Amadioha is the deity of so and so. Ekwensu is the deity of so and so. But when we now say God, they are not, because they fall under this authority of God. So as we are trying to, rejuvenate our ancestral worship, our ancestral practices, we need to be getting it right. And we need to inculcate the right semantics. Because if we don't use these words, we will keep on making the same mistakes. Because there are these so many white people's names that I cannot even pronounce, I cannot even spell out. I cannot even spell out. And suddenly, they expect me to figure it out. So why would I now want to kind of readjust my own so it's going to make sense to another person? So as we are just, we're creating contents around Ordinary, creating contents about African Igbo spirituality, etc. We need to be getting them right by actually telling, giving the information about this is it. So let us stop using this word gods and goddesses. It doesn't have any meaning. If you want to talk to an alose, if you want to talk to an ogugu, call it an ogugu, call it an alose, call it a deity, call it agbara, call it a primordial, but never you call any agbara, alose, god or gods and goddesses. So guys, until next time, yeah guys, yeah. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like these kinds of content. Until next time, yeah guys, yeah.